News Decision 2020, where we'll start our candidate interviews with.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. With incumbent senator. There was a lot of hand signaling going on here. I don't know. Senator Sabina Perez, Democrat. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris and Sabrina. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Of course. We'll just get right into it, and we'll start the clock right now. Senator, while we're on this subject of opioid addiction, we'd just like to get your thoughts on what you would do if to help fight this if reelected to another term.
So I think, I would like basically tag off what the Vice Speaker was saying. I think we need to prioritize our resources in regards to making sure that we have funding available to address this. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of this was actually pushed by pharmaceutical companies and, really kind of holding some of these corporations accountable to provide some of the resources that are needed to counter the addiction problem that we're facing, our community is facing. So I do take this very seriously. I think it's sad to see the impacts in our community, and I'm also supportive of any efforts to stem that or address this crisis, whether it's opioids or meth and ice. I think these are issues that really need to be dealt with. It's really hampering our community. So yes, those are some of the things that I would like to maybe work on. I'll definitely work with my colleagues to find solutions to address this issue.
Okay, well, you made the decision to seek re-election. What are some of the other priorities that you plan on focusing on if re-elected?
So my platform has always been sustainability, and it still is. The difference is that it has evolved to address COVID-19, even more so than now. Sustainability is very vital. And as you can see, it's not just about, for me, in my term, I addressed the issues of natural resources, and that still is also very important to me. But it is expanded to, how are we going to diversify our economy? And that was originally in my platform, and it still is. And I think I have a lot of ideas that I want to implement. In fact, I'm drafting some bills currently to help with that effort, because I think the economy, we really type of tourists rather than having, immediate high turnover tourists, and looking at more of the high profit margin type of tourism. Of course, keeping our population safe is very important, and that has to be guided by the health and safety of our community. So whatever economic initiatives that I set forth, I definitely keep that as one of the priorities.
As the oversight of revenue and taxation, what do you think are some of the critical issues facing that department that you'd like to focus on for the duration of this term and if reelected to another?
Yes, so my office has actually been drafting some rules and regulations to help close the loopholes in regards to collection. So, we talked about the bed and breakfast. We are on the verge of introducing legislation to kind of close those loopholes and to increase enforcement. Also with the bonded warehouse, we're seeing some of a lack of collections in that regard. And there was an OPA audit that came out, and my office is definitely working on producing legislation to help close those gaps. I think also in working with Department of Revenue and Taxation, it's very clear that they've been doing a lot of work to collect 800 million taxes and more, and so that's without the tools that the tools that can help them increase their efforts. And so I am on also this week I plan to introduce legislation to assist with that in regards to automation. So it's kind of tagging on to what the Speaker, Senator Terlahi, has introduced. I'm also I'm producing a bill that is on a similar vein, but it's different in some respects. So I am also looking to help support DRT in their efforts to help address shortfalls in tax collections.
Well, speaking of shortfalls, you did hold an oversight hearing regarding the quarantine facility procurement, and we hadn't heard anything else since then. So
Yes,
can you give us an update on that and what you're doing and what you think will be done
sure.
before the end of this term?
Sure. So yeah, that's a great question, Sabrina. I know the last time we talked, we were talking about oversight hearing, and I am actually going to introduce. So you heard here today that I'll be introducing legislation in regards to the Emergency Health Powers Act. And what was very clear from that oversight is that procurement law was not followed. In fact, there was this new route that was done. It was called emergency purchase. And so, what my bill would do is it would basically close those loops to ensure that proper procurement is followed, and also it because I think it's very important when we're talking about public funds. Especially at times like these, we should not be lax. We should not lax the rules when it comes to these very much, precious funds. And, you know, the, and to see, one of the things, the oversight that was, and one of the findings was that, the people that were involved in the procurement were hiding behind, attorney-client
Right.
privilege.
Right.
And this is something that, with my bill, it reinforces that it's the procurement officials that are going to be, responsible for carrying out procurement during this, any kind of emergency health crisis. But it also provides, it basically clarifies and bridges the two laws. So the Emergency Health Powers Act and the procurement law, it bridges those two to ensure that procurement law is followed, and that if any questions come up, we can hold these officials accountable.
Because right now,
but
it
I
doesn't
think,
seem like anybody's going to be held accountable.
well, that remains to be seen. I think. I do think that also, it answers some of the it answers the shortfalls in what we have right now.
Right.
In regards to it creates a task force, so it really kind of reinforces that the procurement officials are going to be involved, because in the oversight it was shown that the procurement official, chief procurement officer, the Office of Homeland Security, they were in the loop, but they were somehow not involved in the final process. And so the task force that this bill creates will ensure that they are engaged throughout the whole process.
Sorry, you're just bringing us back to
Yeah,
that whole fiasco, and I got to give you props because you really blew the lid off that with that oversight hearing. The senator, now that's emergency purchases and procurement, right? But procurement in general, even the non-emergency kind, just all kinds of malfunction, to quote a phrase. So how do you plan to address maybe streamlining that and tidying it up so that we don't get these cases where in so many different emergency procurements right now, extensions, right? So we have the prison meals, we got the adult meals, and these are emergency procurement extensions that can even extend beyond a year. So how do you plan to work on the regular procurement?
So yeah, I in my study of the procurement procedures in GovWam, it's very clear that the resources they don't have the proper resources. Speaking with the chief procurement officer, they don't have enough staff. And this is something that I've addressed with the governor, with the Department of Administrator, Director Byrne. I've met with them and I've gave them my recommendations on successional planning. And I think this is a government-wide issue, is, in order to do the proper job, we need to have, the training of our civil service, and especially with the procurement office. And then this is something that, there's only so much that I can do as a senator. I can create laws. I can, speak to, the administration, and after the meeting, they said they were going to hire more people, but I feel like there needs to be more of a consistent effort towards ensuring that there are individuals that are trained, and I think part of the problem too is the pay. Within our government itself, you have procurement officials going to, other jobs that pay better. So, like for instance, they go to the autonomous agencies, they pay better, and perhaps it's a better working environment because you're dealing with only one, one agency versus with the GSA, you're dealing with government of Guam, and the working conditions are pretty, pretty intense, I feel. And if you're coming in it as a new person, you just got trained, it could be pretty daunting. So, really my hat's off to those, officials and government of Guam workers that are doing the job in the best way that they can with the limited resources. And so the bill that I'm also introducing this week, another bill, would address some of these automation problems. Because I think, in addition to trained workers, we need to make sure that they have the proper tools. So that's one of the issues that I saw in regards to procurement.
Right.
In regards to, emergency procurement, I do have a bill, and it's, I introduced it over a year ago. And I think in some ways it's good that I didn't push it through, because there are other changes that can be made now in light of COVID. And some of the I was able to work through some of the issues. So as you know, when we introduce bills, I want to hear from the stakeholders and try to resolve any kind of issues that come up from it. And when I create bills, I want to make sure that it has the buy-in from the people that are going to utilize it. And so one of the reforms with this emergency procurement is that it does extend from 30 days to 90 days. That should give agencies enough time to go through the typical procurement methods, to not have to rely on emergency procurement, which is not what it was meant for. It was meant for unforeseen circumstances, and not to be used as a way to prolong a contract because there wasn't enough time to go out for a bid. So with the type of reform that I have in place for that particular part of procurement law, this would help address some of that issue, and to hopefully help utilize our resources more efficiently and effectively.
Senator, the Emergency Health Powers Act, the amendments, right? You said you were going to be introducing legislation to make amendments to the EHPA?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes,
so this is the superpowers bill, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So is there any changes to the governor's superpowers, or I think there was provisions in there that would
Did you guys
allow
give her
to
X-ray vision?
bypass certain procurement laws, or any changes to
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question. And exactly in the portion of law where it states that the governor can suspend laws, in there we place that does not include procurement law, and that it's definitely tied to that whatever power she has, the governor has to abide by the procurement law.
that? I see.
So it is a qualification of that.
Okay. Well, you do have about a minute left, so we're going to give you the floor to just give any sort of closing comments and your final pitch to why people should vote for you. Again.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you to the people of Guam. I'm interested in running again for office because I feel like there's a lot of work to be done in regards to sustainability. I have great ideas as far as innovations to diversify our economy, and also in addition to continuing the work that I've done to make sure that our water is safe, with the introduction of the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is an overhaul. I've also expanded, protection of our resources, our land, by introducing the Zero Waste Act, and that basically would help divert land, expand the life of our landfill, and also help create a cottage industry to help establish a localized economy. And I think resiliency is so important for our island, and I think sustainability is so important. And I would like to continue the work that I've started. And having the experience of over this term, I feel that there's so much work to be done. So I do appreciate your support to help to continue the work that I'm doing to make Guam sustainable, not only in its natural resources, but financially, and making sure that our government is utilizing the resources in the most effective way as possible.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Sabina Perez there with her candidate interview right here on KUAM News' Decision 2020.